You need to be putting out 100 pieces of content a day. Just saying. Gary Vee said it first. Why am I making this post? Why should you do that? Well, I'm going to explain to you how and why in this post, particularly the blog post beneath, but I'm going to try to get into it in the video itself as well. You need to be making 100 pieces of content a day. And honestly, right now, at the point of me recording this, it's already starting to get to, like, not too late, but it's starting to get more and more capable, and a lot of people are doing something similar. While they may not be doing 100, they might be doing 50 or 60, and that's still beating everybody else in the market. Now, when Gary Vee started talking about this first, this was like 2 or 3 years ago, I think, when he first really started pushing it, maybe even longer than that, but he talked about doing multiple type posts a day. Eventually, he said in his keynotes that really stuck with me, you need to be posting 100 times of content across all these different platforms a day. Now, mind you, it is not 100 videos or 100 tweets or 100 podcasts, right? You're not making 100 big pieces of content. You can, but that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about taking one piece and spreading it across. Now, you may do more than that. You may still do social media posts on their own. It's not all going to be repurposed. Oh, this stupid mic stand. Now, what that means is you take a video, you make that into a podcast, you make that into a blog post, and then eventually, that's 3 pieces right there. You make quote tweets out of that, and then those quote tweets can go on Threads, Mastodon, and Gab or whatever. And so let's say you make 3 quotes from your blog post. Well, each 3 quotes can go on Twitter, Threads, let's say Mastodon, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, and Facebook. 3 times 6, that's 18 posts right there. And then each video will probably generate, let's say it's a 15-minute video, it might generate 5 clips across TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, and Pinterest. 5 times 5, 25. I don't know. Let's round up to, let's say it's 45. Let's just round it up to there. And because maybe it'll be more clips or more quotes or whatever. And not to mention every single one of the, like the post, the podcast, the video, and the blog post will all make a tweet or a Facebook post whenever they get made. That's what Newlink does for me automatically. My point is, you have about 45 pieces of content just right there, just from making all 3 types. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm making this post. This post will end up going out as a podcast as well. Thank you for listening in. And I also make the blog post underneath. So I'm making all 3. And technically speaking, this is making the Substack is a post that has a video on it, but it's also going to go to YouTube and make a YouTube post on it and on Spotify. If you really want to get granular, you could say the Apple and Spotify are 2 different platforms. So when you post a podcast, you're posting to both. That's 2 different posts right there. Theoretically, that counts, but I don't generally count it myself in my quote. And then on top of that too, I usually schedule out ahead of time a whole bunch of posts, 1 a day to all the written platforms. And so that's already another post right there. So really, as long as you are planning things out, repurposing your content, and thinking of it in a more macro scale while getting granular and micro in your actions, you can get to those 100 posts pretty easily. Again, that one quote tweet goes out to 5 to 6 different platforms. That one clip goes out to 5 different platforms. And so while yes, it is technically syndication rather than actually posting, it is a fresh post on your TikTok. It is a fresh post on your Instagram. Those are different platforms with different audiences. Maybe the tonality needs to change. Maybe you should be a little bit more stingy on how you do your intro comparatively to different platforms. Some people go on, like, was it Dan Martell? I think he was talking about how he posts a ton on TikTok because there's no penalty to it. Whereas on Instagram, while there's not a penalty per se, they don't push everything out. And so the more you push, the harder it is kind of to reach out. So if you're more picky about what you post on Instagram, more quality centric, then it'll have more likely to get bigger reach. So while they don't necessarily hurt you for doing too much, they don't push it either. And so they'll usually take the best posts from their TikTok and then post that on Instagram. YouTube Shorts, I find volume is fine anyways, especially when you link them to your long form post. And then on top of that, that same tweet I mentioned earlier could also go out as a community post on YouTube. You have to do that manually. But again, if you start thinking about it in the more macro sense, and that each platform has their own written version, has their own image version, has their own, now you can post images and regular text posts to TikTok too. So that same post could go out to there. So really, if you start thinking about it that way, 100 posts a day is really not that hard. And so you just have to start figuring out how you're going to make that main video or blog post or podcast originally and then disseminate it from there. Because you can start from any of the 3 pillar types and make them into the other pillar types. But if you start with a blog post, it's probably the hardest because you have to do like text to speech and then text to video and vice versa. And same with like podcasting and video. If you make a podcast, you can do a visualizer to make a video, or maybe even like a HeyGen AI. But again, it costs money or skill, and it's just harder that way. But if you start from a video first, it's a little bit easier. But if you start putting out that much content every day, let's get into the why a little bit more, because a lot of people don't realize the massive potential you have right now with free attention. Gary Vee keeps saying it, and I always kind of ignored it in my head too. He keeps talking about like it is free right now, and it's not always going to be free. And I was watching a video by the DM marketing punk, right? Tom Marriott, and he was talking about how all these AI browsers are coming out. And if you're like an e-commerce business especially, it's going to really mess you up, because now all these AI agents are going to be doing the shopping for the person themselves. So the person will normally search for a product, like let's say a water pail to water their plants on Google. A link will come up, usually sponsored. People scroll past it, they find your link, they click on it, they go to your website, they find the product they want, they go through your checkout process, and then they end up buying it. Nowadays, with the AI browsers, it can probably skip most of that on its own. It'll do it all on its own. And then it might take you to the checkout on your website, but more than likely it would find a similar product on Amazon or something like that instead. So it bypasses your website altogether. Now, even if you're not e-commerce, you still got to think about this as a content creator standpoint. If you're making great content, especially more educational, or especially in a certain niche where it's underappreciated or not necessarily much saturation, right? Blue ocean, then theoretically, these AI browsers aren't going to impact you as much. But the attention graphic that is open right now is starting to get more and more closed off because of those AI browsers, because of the monopoly of Google, and because of just ChatGPT in general, like, taking away the need for certain websites to be shown. And so this idea that right now this attention is free, down the line it might be paid. You might have to pay to win. You might have to actually pay to be on YouTube. I don't think that's going to happen, but theoretically it could. Or maybe you have to find some alternative that's not as good, and or if you want to get any sort of views, you might have to pay for ads, right? There are so many avenues this could go down, but right now it is free. Right now you can go to all these different platforms with hardly any penalty for posting too much, and on top of that, the more you post, the more chances people can find your content ecosystem. I don't need to talk any more than this today, but that is why you need to take advantage of this opportunity that's in front of you and really try to get to that level of being able to produce 100 posts a day. It doesn't have to necessarily come from scratch. You can repurpose, you can syndicate, you can even just send out your content as tweets. Like if you make a YouTube video, tweet it out, right? That's a very simple automation. Make sure it's a little bit more interesting than just saying, hey, here's a new video. Give it a title, give it a little bit more of a oomph to it. But really, the automation is easy. And so there's no reason why you shouldn't be trying to do this, except for the fact that you just think it's hard. It's not that hard. Figure it out. Figure out what you can do for your own content. Thank you.